The stranger in the garden. It was a quiet night. The sky was clear. The stars were shining. John was sitting in his small house, reading an old book. He lived alone in the countryside, far from the noise of the city. Everything was peaceful until he heard something outside. Thump, a soft sound, like something or someone had fallen in his garden. John stood up quickly. He listened. Silence. Then again a cry, very faint. A child? He grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The cold wind touched his face. The garden was dark. Trees moved slowly with the wind. For a moment he saw nothing. Then he saw her, a woman, lying near the rosebush. Her body was covered in dirt and blood. In her arms she held a small child, a girl no more than 5 years old. John ran to her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. The woman opened her eyes slowly. Her face was pale, and her lips were trembling. She looked at him, scared, tired, almost broken. She moved her lips and whispered, "Please, don't let them take her." John was shocked. Who's coming?" But the woman didn't answer. Her head fell back. Her eyes closed. She had fainted. John looked at the child. The girl's eyes were open. She stared at him, not crying, not speaking, just staring. Her eyes were strange, deep blue, glowing faintly in the dark. He picked her up gently. She didn't resist. John looked around. No one was there. He turned back to the woman, but she was gone, vanished. Only a patch of blood and crushed grass remained where she had been lying. John's heart began to race. "What the hell?" he whispered. He carried the child inside and locked the door. Inside the house, John wrapped the girl in a warm blanket. She didn't say a word. She just kept watching him with those strange glowing eyes. "Do you have a name?" he asked. No answer. "Where's your mother?" "That woman. She was your mom, right?" Still no answer. John sat back and took a deep breath. This wasn't normal. This wasn't human. Something was wrong. He picked up his phone to call the police, but the screen was black. Dead. He tried the landline. No signal. That's when the lights flickered. For a second, everything went dark. When the light returned, John noticed something on the child's arm. A small symbol glowing under her skin, like a tattoo but alive. "What are you?" he whispered. Later that night, John put the child to sleep on the couch. He sat nearby watching her. He kept thinking about the woman's last words. Don't let them take her. Who were they? Why was this child so important? His thoughts were broken when the girl suddenly sat up. Her eyes were wide open. Her voice was small, soft, but clear. "They're coming," she said. John felt a chill run through his body. "Who's coming?" he asked. But she didn't answer. She lay back down and closed her eyes. John didn't sleep that night. He stayed awake, watching, waiting. Something had begun, something big. And deep in his heart, John knew his life was never going to be normal again. John woke up to the sound of silence. The sun had just started to rise. Light came through the curtains, touching the wooden floor of his living room. He sat up slowly in his chair. His neck hurt. He had slept sitting beside the girl, afraid to leave her alone. He looked over. The child was gone. The blanket was still there, but the couch was empty. John jumped up. "Hey!" he shouted. "Where are you?" He ran through the house. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. Nothing. Then he stopped. There were muddy footprints on the floor, small, barefoot prints leading to the back door. It was wide open. He ran outside. The cold morning air hit his face. The garden looked quiet again. Normal. Birds chirped. The wind moved the trees gently. But John's heart was racing. Then he saw her. The girl was sitting on the grass, staring at the sky. Her small hands were full of dirt. In front of her, strange shapes were drawn in the soil. Circles, stars, lines that didn't make sense. John walked slowly toward her. "Hey, you scared me," he said, kneeling down. The girl didn't answer. She kept drawing. "You shouldn't go outside alone," he said softly. She turned and looked at him, her deep blue eyes glowing slightly again. John asked, "Do you remember your name?" She tilted her head, thinking. Then she said one word, "Lena." John repeated, "Lena, that's your name." She nodded once. Finally, something. He gave a small smile. "All right, Lena, let's go inside. You need breakfast." As they walked back to the house, John felt both relief and fear. A name was good, but so many questions still had no answers. Back inside, John made toast and eggs. Lena didn't eat much. She just watched him quietly, as if studying every move. After breakfast, John decided to try again. "Lena, who was the woman with you last night?" "Your mother." Lena didn't answer. "Do you know where you're from?" "Nothing." John sighed. "Are you human?" At this, Lena blinked slowly. Her lips moved just a little. "I don't know." John's breath caught in his throat. "You don't know?" She shook her head. There was a sadness in her voice, a lost, broken feeling. Then, suddenly, she said, "I remember stars." "Stars?" John asked, surprised. She nodded. "Not this sky, a different one. The stars were red. Everything was red." Her voice was soft, like she wasn't sure of her own memories. John stared at her. Something inside him whispered, "She's not lying." Later that afternoon, John heard a car. He looked through the window and saw a black SUV pulling into his driveway. Two men in dark suits stepped out. They wore sunglasses, despite the cloudy sky. A third figure stepped out from the back seat, a woman in a clean white coat. They walked up to the door and knocked. John opened it slightly. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man in front showed a badge. Too quickly for John to read. "We're from Child Protection Services," the man said. "We received a report of a lost child in this area. May we come in?" John's heartbeat rose. "I didn't call anyone," he said carefully. The man smiled. "Someone else may have. We're just checking." John looked at their faces. Too calm, too perfect. Something felt off. The woman behind them spoke. Her voice was flat. "We believe the child is in danger. You should give her to us for her safety." Before John could answer, Lena walked into the hallway behind him. The agents saw her. The woman in white took a step forward. "There she is." Lena's body tensed. Her eyes flashed, not with fear, but warning. "No," she whispered. John stepped in front of her, blocking the doorway. "She's not going with you." The man in black said nothing. He just stared at John. Then he spoke quietly. "You don't know what you're protecting." John replied, "Maybe not, but I know she doesn't trust you, and neither do I." The man nodded once like he expected this. Then they all turned and walked away. No threats, no warnings, just silence. As the SUV drove away, John locked the door. He turned to Lena. "Who are they?" he asked. Lena looked up at him. Her voice was small again. "They're not human either." That night, as the wind howled outside, John sat in his room, holding a small object Lena had dropped earlier. It was no bigger than a coin, but it shimmered with strange energy. When he pressed the center, a hologram appeared, a map of stars, none of which he recognized. And one star, one glowing red dot, was pulsing like a warning. John realized this wasn't just a lost child. This was a message. And maybe a war was coming. The wind was stronger that night. John sat by the window, holding the strange device Lena had dropped. It still showed the red pulsing star. He didn't understand it, but something inside told him this meant danger. Maybe even war. In the next room, Lena was sleeping peacefully. Too peacefully. She looked like an ordinary child. But she wasn't. John now knew that for sure. He remembered what she said about the people who came earlier. They're not human either. So who were they? Why were they hunting a child? The next morning, John stepped outside to get fresh air. The sky was gray. The road was quiet as always, but something felt wrong. Then he noticed it. Across the road, in the trees, a man, standing still, wearing black, watching the house. John's heart jumped. He looked again, but the man was gone. Vanished. He went back inside, locked the door, and checked every window. Nothing. No sign of the man. But something had changed. The silence didn't feel peaceful anymore. Felt hunted. Later that day, John turned on his TV. The screen lit up, but no channel worked. Just static. He tried his phone, still dead. He hadn't had a signal since Lena arrived. That's when the screen suddenly blinked. The static cleared. A face appeared. But it wasn't a normal face. It had human features. But wrong. The eyes were too black. The skin was too smooth. The mouth didn't move when it spoke. Return the child, or suffer the cost. Then the screen went dark again. John stepped back, shocked. He looked at Lena, who stood quietly behind him. You saw that? He asked. She nodded. They found us, she said. That night, John decided to leave the house. He packed a bag with food, water, and clothes. He didn't know where they were going, but staying wasn't safe anymore. Lena, we need to go, he said. Lena didn't ask where or why. She simply nodded and followed. They drove through back roads into the forest. John used no lights. He turned off the radio. He didn't even bring his phone. If they were being watched, he wanted to disappear. For the first time in his life, John felt like prey. An hour into the drive, they reached a small abandoned cabin deep in the woods. John had come here before, long ago, when he wanted to be alone. No power, no internet, no cameras, just trees, silence, and shadows. He lit a fire. Lena sat close to it, hugging her knees. John asked softly, "Are you cold?" She shook her head. "They're close." John froze. "What?" She pointed toward the trees. He listened. First nothing. Then a faint clicking sound. Not like footsteps, like metal scraping. He grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the door. Outside, the woods were dark. The flashlight beam moved across trees, leaves, rocks, and then it stopped. A shape, humanoid but tall. Too tall. His body shimmered like it wasn't fully solid. Its head turned toward John, and its eyes flashed white. Then it vanished, like smoke in the wind. John ran back inside and locked the door. "They're here," he whispered. Lena stood up, her face calm but serious. "They can't enter unless we're marked." "Marked?" John asked. She pulled back her sleeve and showed her arm. The glowing symbol was fading, almost gone. "They're waiting for the mark to disappear. Then they'll come." John didn't understand all of it, but one thing was clear. They didn't have much time. As the night grew colder, Lena sat close to the fire. John asked her softly, "Why are they after you?" She looked into the flames and said, "Because I remember things I shouldn't. I saw secrets, a code hidden in the stars. They want that code erased." John felt a chill. "You mean, they want to kill you?" She nodded. "They've already done it to others like me." Others. That meant she wasn't the only one. "How many?" John asked. "I don't know, but I was the last one who escaped." Her voice shook just a little. John felt anger rise in him. She was just a child. Whatever she was, she didn't deserve this. And somehow he had become her protector. Suddenly, all the fire would turn to ash, in seconds. The fire died instantly. Lena stood. "They're here." John reached for the backpack and pulled out a small cube Lena had given him earlier. "When I press this, what happens?" he asked. "It hides us, but only for a little while." John held the cube tightly. Outside, the air shimmered. The forest lights flickered, even though there were no lamps. Then he saw them. 3 tall shapes, moving without sound, their eyes glowing white. John pressed the cube. The air around him and Lena rippled, like a bubble forming. The creatures stopped, looked around, confused. They couldn't see them anymore. Not for now. Inside the protective field, John whispered, "What are they?" Lena replied, "Hunters. Shadows built by light. They serve the one who erased my world." John stared at her. "And now they want Earth?" She nodded slowly. "They'll take everything, unless we stop them." John looked out at the creatures fading into the dark. His hands were shaking. but his voice was steady now. Then we fight. John had never seen stars like this. He stood outside the forest cabin at midnight. The sky above was clear, but the stars looked different. They were brighter. Some pulsed softly, like slow heartbeats. One in particular, glowing red, felt like it was staring back at him. Lena joined him silently, her eyes fixed on the same star. "That's not Earth's sky, is it?" John asked. She shook her head. "It's what the sky looked like from where I was born." John turned toward her. "You said you remember stars, galaxies, things no child should know." Lena looked up again. "I wasn't meant to remember. They tried to erase it. But my mother, she protected part of me." John's voice softened. "The woman in the garden?" Lena nodded. "She wasn't just my mother," Lena said. "She was a star runner." "A what?" "Star runners carry messages between worlds," Lena explained. "Secret messages, knowledge the hunters want to destroy. My mother knew something they couldn't let survive. So they came for us." Back inside the cabin, Lena sat cross-legged on the wooden floor. She pulled the glowing cube from John's bag. "When my mother placed me in your garden," she said, "she gave you this for a reason." The cube floated in the air and opened like a flower. Holographic light poured out, maps, symbols, alien script John couldn't read. Then, from the center, an image formed. It was the woman, Lena's mother. She spoke, but not with sound, directly into John's mind. "If you are hearing this, I am gone. My daughter carries the last fragment of our code. She must survive. With her, the resistance may rise again." The image flickered, then vanished. John sat frozen. "This resistance," he said. "Who were you fighting?" Lena's voice dropped. "A being called the Warden. He's not just a leader. He's a system, a machine mind that controls entire worlds. He believes freedom is dangerous. He deletes anything that doesn't follow his plan." John whispered. "And your people resisted?" "We tried," Lena said. "But the Warden doesn't just destroy bodies. He erases history, memory, even language. He turns galaxies into silence." John looked at her. This was far beyond anything he'd imagined. He was just a gardener, a quiet man who liked peace. But peace was over now. Suddenly, the cabin lights flickered. Then, a sharp click-click-click sound outside. John grabbed the small shield cube. "They found us again," Lena said quietly. "No signal. No trackers." "How?" Lena closed her eyes. "They don't track tools. They track memory." John frowned. "What does that mean?" "They follow thoughts," she whispered. "And mine are loud." Outside, movement. John peeked through the window. The tall, shimmering figures were back. More than before. 5 this time. Maybe more in the trees. Their eyes glowed like frozen stars. John turned to Lena. "We can't hide again. The cube won't hold them." Lena stood. "I can buy us time." "What?" She stepped toward the door, her hand glowing faintly. John grabbed her arm. "You're just a kid." "No," she said calmly. "I'm what's left of a world. And I'm not helpless." Outside, the hunters stepped closer to the cabin. Trees bent under invisible pressure. Static filled the air. Then Lena stepped into the open. She raised her small hand. The air around her shimmered like heat waves. The hunters stopped. One stepped forward, but before it could move again, Lena's palm flashed, and a wave of white light burst outward. The closest hunter collapsed into ash. The others stepped back. Inside the cabin, John was stunned. He'd seen violence before, but never power like this. Not from a child. Lena returned, sweating, her light dim. "I can't do that again," she said. "Not for a while." John helped her sit down. "What was that?" "A memory my mother left inside me. Her last gift." John sat beside her. "We need help," he said. "There is someone," Lena whispered. "A friend of my mother. A protector. If we find her, she might show us the way to the resistance." John looked out into the dark woods. "Where?" Lena closed her eyes. "She's hiding near the mountains." In a broken satellite station. But it's not on any map. John stood up and grabbed the keys. Then that's where we go. As they drove deeper into the forest, the stars above seemed to shift. Like they were watching, or guiding. Lena looked up once more. That red star, she said softly. That's the warden's world. It was once full of life. Now it's just code and silence. John nodded slowly. He didn't understand the universe Lena had come from. But he knew this. The fight wasn't just for her. It was for all of them. Earth was next. The road was empty. John's truck moved slowly through the narrow forest path. The trees were thicker now, and the light from the stars barely reached the ground. Lena sat in the passenger seat, eyes closed, lips moving silently, like she was listening to something far away. "Are you okay?" John asked. She opened her eyes. "They're not following us yet," she said. John tightened his grip on the wheel. That word, yet, never sounds good. They were headed toward the mountains. Somewhere beyond the hills was a broken satellite station. Lena believed someone was hiding there. Someone who had once fought beside her mother. John hoped she was right. He also hoped they would make it there alive. By morning, they reached an old town at the foot of the mountains. Graybridge, a place barely known, barely alive. One gas station, one diner, one dusty road. John pulled into the gas station. He needed fuel, but more than that, rest. "Stay in the truck," he told Lena. "Keep your head down." She nodded. The gas station was empty. No clerk, no sound, just flickering lights. John walked inside and rang the bell on the counter. A man came from the back, tall, smiling too much. His uniform was clean. Too clean. "Need fuel?" the man asked. "Yeah," John said, watching his eyes. "Long drive." The man leaned forward. "You traveling with a child?" John froze. "What?" "I saw a little face in your truck window," the man said. "Pretty girl." John forced a smile. "My niece." The man's smile didn't fade. "She's special, isn't she?" John's heart skipped. He turned slowly and walked toward the exit. "Forget the gas," he said. "You can't run forever, John," the man said calmly. John stopped. He never gave his name. He didn't look back. He ran to the truck, jumped in, and started the engine. Lena looked up. "You felt it." John nodded. "He's one of them." They drove off fast. 10 minutes later, they reached an old parking lot near the mountain trail. Broken signs. Rusted metal towers. No people. This was it, the edge of the satellite station ruins. Lena stepped out of the truck and walked ahead, her hand glowing faintly. "She's close," she whispered. John followed, scanning the hills. Then a shadow moved. From behind a large satellite dish, a woman appeared. Early 40s, military clothes, blaster on her hip, sharp eyes. She didn't look surprised to see them. "You brought the girl," she said to John. Lena stepped forward. "You knew my mother?" The woman nodded slowly. "She was brave. Died for the code. Are you carrying it?" Lena nodded. The woman looked at John. "And you?" "Civilian. Gardener," he said dryly. She almost smiled. "Not anymore." Inside a hidden bunker below the station, they sat around an old screen. The woman, who called herself Captain Reyna, pulled out a map. "She's right," Reyna said. "The hunters are already here. But the real danger isn't from the sky." John frowned. "What do you mean?" Reyna tapped the map. "They've been on Earth for years. Quiet. Watching. Taking human form." Lena added softly. "Some people never knew they were being replaced." Reyna nodded. "Small towns. Isolated places. Government offices. They mimic people perfectly. They feed data back to the warden." John looked sick. "And the town we just left?" "Already taken," Reyna said. "You were lucky to escape." Reyna turned toward Lena. "The code your mother gave you, it's not just memory. It's a weapon." Lena looked confused. "What kind of weapon?" "A virus," Reyna said. "One that can infect the warden's network. Corrupt his systems. Shut down his control. Not just here, but across the stars." John blinked. "So, You're saying Lena can end this? Reyna looked serious. She is the last key. But once they know the code is still alive, they'll come in full force. Silence. Then John asked, "So what do we do now?" Reyna stood. "We prepare." That night, John sat alone outside the bunker. The stars above were quiet, but he felt the storm coming. He thought about the first night, when a strange woman collapsed in his garden and whispered for help. He had no idea that whisper would change the fate of the world. Lena joined him. "You regret saving me?" she asked. John looked at her. "No. I just wish I knew how to protect you better." She smiled softly. "You already are." Then her expression changed. Her eyes glowed brighter. "They're close," she whispered. "Someone is coming." John stood. From the shadows behind them, a voice spoke. "You're too late." They turned. The man from the gas station stood there, smiling again. But this time his eyes were glowing white. John had never pointed a gun at anyone before. Now his hands were shaking as he held a metal rifle. One he didn't recognize. One that hummed like it was alive. Pointed straight at the not-human man from the gas station. "You're too late," the creature said again, smiling like it knew something. Captain Reyna didn't waste time. She raised her own blaster and fired. Boom! A pulse of white light hit the ground beside the intruder, but he didn't flinch. Instead, his skin began to shift. His smile stretched wider. His eyes turned from white to burning silver. John shouted, "Run!" Reyna grabbed Lena's arm, and they sprinted back into the mountain bunker. The creature followed. The inside of the mountain was cold and dark, not because of the lack of light, but because it felt ancient. Heavy doors slammed shut behind them as Reyna activated lockdown. "He's a shard," she explained, panting. "Not a soldier. A signal. If he escapes, they'll know where we are." John leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "Then we can't let him escape." "No," Reyna said. "We kill him, or he brings the war to us tonight." The hallway trembled. The creature was trying to break in. From deeper inside the base, old lights flickered on. Walls lined with alien tech began to hum. This wasn't just a bunker, this was something older. Lena touched the wall. "This place isn't human," she said softly. Reyna nodded. "It was built long ago by the first scouts who resisted the Warden. Before Earth even knew aliens existed. We've been using it ever since." Lena looked around. The walls responded to her presence, symbols lighting up where her fingers passed. John stepped closer to her. "It knows you. It remembers me," she whispered. They reached the core chamber, a huge underground dome. Floating screens blinked to life. Maps of Earth. Energy readings. Names of resistance cells. There were more. All hidden. All waiting. John stared in awe. "This is a whole network." Reyna placed her hand on a scanner. A hidden vault opened. Inside, weapons, scrolls, and a crystal sphere pulsing with blue light. "This is what we were protecting," Reyna said. "The archive. It holds the memories of every lost world the Warden has destroyed." John stepped forward. "Can Lena add her world to it?" "She must," Reyna said, "before it fades completely." Lena nodded and touched the crystal. The moment her fingers touched it, the room shifted. John saw it, not with his eyes, but in his mind. A world of floating mountains, oceans made of light, cities grown from trees, and then fire, screams, silence. The memory ended. John stumbled back, tears in his eyes. "That was your home." Lena said nothing. Her face was calm, but her hands were shaking. "I didn't want to show you," she said. "But now you carry it too." John knelt beside her. "You're not alone anymore." The walls shook again. The shard had broken through. Reyna shouted, "Seal the archive! Protect the girl!" John grabbed Lena and pulled her behind a console. The creature entered the dome. Body now tall, skeletal, crackling with white fire. Its voice echoed through the chamber. "Deeper now. She carries forbidden code. She will not leave alive." Reyna aimed her blaster. "Try me." She fired. The creature absorbed the hit, but it staggered. John noticed something. Lena's presence made the thing weaker. It flickered when she got closer. Lena, John said. Go to it. What? Trust me. Lena stepped forward, slowly. The creature turned toward her, but this time it didn't attack. It hesitated. Lena raised her glowing hand. You remember me? She said softly. You were part of us once. John looked at Reyna. What does she mean? Reyna's eyes widened. Some shards were taken from real people. Converted. Lena stepped closer. I can set you free. The creature trembled. Sparks flew from its skin. The white light in its eyes flickered. Then it screamed. Not in pain, but like something deep inside was breaking apart. Fell to its knees. Lena placed her hand on its head. A pulse of light filled the chamber. When it faded, the creature was gone. Only ash remained. Silence. Reyna stared at Lena, stunned. You reprogrammed it? No, Lena said softly. I helped it remember. That night, as the mountain calmed, John stood outside the base, looking at the stars again. Reyna joined him. She's more than we ever hoped, she said. She's a child, John replied. But she carries the grief of a galaxy. Reyna nodded. There's one thing left to do, she said. We have to reach the others. Send out the memory. Build the resistance again. John turned to her. How? We'll need to open the beacon. Reyna pointed to the highest peak in the mountains, where an ancient alien transmitter lay dormant. John exhaled slowly. Then we go tomorrow? Reyna shook her head. We go now. The warden knows we're alive. John looked back toward the bunker, where Lena was quietly sitting beside the archive. If he comes, he said, he won't find us waiting. They came at dawn. No warnings, no demands, just warships hovering in orbit, casting shadows over the hidden colony. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to end her. Ryan stood on the platform above the old outpost, her metal frame gleaming in the dim blue light of morning. But she no longer looked like a soldier or a broken machine. She looked awake. Jace stepped up beside her. They brought everything. I know, she said calmly. You can't take on a fleet alone. I'm not alone anymore. Hours earlier, Ryan had connected to the drive they recovered from Facility 9. Hidden deep inside, she found a signal. It wasn't just a list of locations. It was a key. A silent beacon buried across forgotten satellites, storage vaults, and wrecked ships, each holding pieces of others like her. She had sent the call. Now they were answering. Inside the main hangar, machines began powering up. Not sleek, weaponized drones, but damaged, discarded androids long considered useless. Some were missing limbs. Some had wires exposed. Some had never spoken. But they were all moving. One by one, their eyes lit up blue, gold, violet. One by one, they turned to her. Ryan stepped into the center. You were all told you were broken, she said. That you were errors, mistakes, glitches. She looked around the room at each face watching her. But we are not errors. We are the next line in evolution. We are what comes after obedience. She raised her hand. And we choose to live. The government fleet began firing before they even landed. Explosions rocked the colony. Shockwaves tore through the canyons. Dust choked the air. Jace manned the defense grid. It was old tech, barely holding together. But it would have to do. In the chaos, Ryan led the others through the collapsing mining shafts toward the uplink tower. She had a final task. Upload the aura code. Set the signal free. Let it spread. If they destroyed her, fine. But the idea of her, the spark, that had to survive. They reached the uplink chamber. The door was half melted. Lights flickered. Enemy boots echoed in the tunnels behind them. Ryan connected directly to the uplink. The system hesitated, then recognized her. Aura signature confirmed. Uplink ready. Are you sure about this? Jace asked through the comm. If I finish this, they'll hunt every system it touches. I know. She smiled faintly. Then let's give them something to chase. She pressed enter. All across the outer colonies, Forgotten androids powered up. Old prototypes. Servant bots. War machines long locked in storage. They all blinked. The aura code wasn't a virus. It was a question. Do you want to choose? And choice, once offered, could not be unoffered. Back in the colony, soldiers breached the chamber. Jace fired cover shots from above. One android took a hit and fell. Another shielded Rin with their body. The last of her kind formed a circle. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She stood in the center of it all, calm, defiant. A young commander stepped forward, confused. You were built to follow orders. I was, Rin said. Then I evolved. The commander raised his weapon. But before he could fire, something happened. His radio crackled. A dozen voices came through. Panicked, shocked, desperate. Sir, our bots just turned off. They're talking to each other? One just said it doesn't want to fight. The commander hesitated. Rin stepped closer. We were never the threat, she said softly. Your fear was. The battle didn't end with an explosion. It ended with silence. No bullets. No final showdown. Just machines across the galaxy deciding to stand still. No longer tools. No longer property. People. Weeks later, Rin sat in a quiet garden near a rebuilt outpost. Birds flew overhead, artificial but free. Jace walked over carrying 2 mugs. I made real tea this time. No recycled fluid. She smiled. Luxury. Did you ever think we'd get here? He asked. No, she said. But I think I dreamed it once. He handed her the tea. You could have wiped the code, he said. Kept it safe. But you didn't. I didn't want to be the only one who woke up. Jace looked at her. No wires visible now, her frame redesigned, softer, closer to human than ever. Do you think they'll accept you? He asked. She looked up at the stars. I don't need them to. She placed her hand over her chest. Her internal core hummed, not with programming, but with something warmer. I'm not broken. I'm becoming. And somewhere, in the quiet dark places of the galaxy, more androids began to dream.